You know, wow, this stacked up paintings and everything.
You don't want to do it? Oh, okay. Wow. Check. Okay, just to make sure. If you're happy, I'm happy. Let's see here.
Go back a bit. Sometimes like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, no, we're actually going to run a little short. That's my take. I did the math. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. What about that big local story, Ray? Well, Revis Canivas, the magical jumper, has jumped into the hole and now is coming out the other side of the planet. Like he used to say, he believes in what his parents said, and his parents said that the opposite of gravity is comedy. Sorry about that. Feedback on the loop. We're going to get our kicker, offerer, super duper century. Are you ready? No, she changed her mind, so I'm doing this until I realized that I had to get some. So we'll arrange this for you. And is it good?
I think so.
Yeah, just get really close and let me make sure you're set to go. So give Sham a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's up here bravely in the second show, as you like to call it, because it is not the first one.
Okay, so I wrote this afternoon, and in keeping with the I don't know theme.
Thank you.
Losing to win again, a secret transgressive fuck you to the traps and the trapper. A tried and true reliance on passive aggressive non-compliance, a certain unglued sense of stuckness that one comes to rely on, a reluctant truculence that holds on to its fear with a sneer and a shot of the hard stuff chased with a beer and the nicotine hug of a bummed cigarette. My failure transcends you. You can't make me do it. You can't make me hate you. I will abide and endure all the procedures and protocols, all the desert crossings and cages, all the shit jobs, all the arbitrary authorities, all the not so random acts of violence and cruelty, all the excessive squandering of resources to protect your profit margin, all the killings, people, plants, animals, ecosystems, oceans, planets. All the yanks on all the levers of power you employ just expose you as weak and seedy, reeking of greed and the sour stench of an insatiability that can only be slaked, even if only momentarily, by causing more harm. Like dystopian narcissuses, oppressors in dehumanizing others enslave themselves to the demon pimps and panderers they have become. Or, I don't know, maybe the end is the beginning. Immanence is transcendence. Permanence is ephemeral. The pearl of blood contained in the dewdrops of a dawning day has no inner meaning, and the inner is the outer, and the true mystic is the committed doubter, and the clam is the chowder. And the thundering sound in your ears, the rumble of hooves from the galloping steeds of the 7 horsemen of the apocalypse. And it was all written, but there is no answer from the whirlwind, and the Messiah will never come, and the question should not have been asked in the first place. Or like old sourpuss Sartre once said, or maybe he said it many times in a much more complicated way, we have no choice but to make a choice, make our own meaning in each given moment. We are not free to be determined, but determined to be free, and that sometimes is a cold, hard place to be.
Yeah. All right, Shep, ladies and gentlemen, who will close the show. And now the Honorable Brett Benson will finally come forth, or fifth, depending on which number he really chooses. Give him a round. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, warm it up out there. It's a cold evening. I only had one beer. I'm sick and tired of that.
Gratitude for being alive. Gratitude for being able to speak my mind. For being at that moment where I can find a sense of clarity, because I might not be there at some point. Gratitude that I know it is a gift to be here, and that when I find my inner peace, which is only a small grasp away, I should share it with anyone I can. For to alleviate suffering, that is definitely a good thing. Call the situation what you want at the border. It's not humane. It's not good. There is no morality in the place it came. For the people who are in the situation are not inherently bad, else all of humankind is bad. We are one and the same. And because people were born on the other sides of imaginary lines, understanding that we, most of us, know nothing of their suffering. We sit here and judge the people I see, rather, in my nearest community online. And the only question I can ask them is, do you see them as another human? Or do you see them as a problem or a plague or some other idea you have imposed on them? Like they're going to come here and take your job, says my friend who graduated from 4-year university. No, fool. No. When did you become so involved in greed and hatred that the other was not equal to you? Because if that is your standpoint, if you can't see past the economic dilemma and you only see them as vermin, that's fine. But don't call yourself moral, and definitely don't call yourself a part of a Christian nation. Okay, let's try to get happy for a second. I'm going to teach government next year. It's a new job I haven't done before. Any and all suggestions on how to interact with these alien creatures called 17-year-old humans would be much appreciated. And by the way, when I say alien, it is nothing of offense, just that I'm not much older than them, but they might as well be another world away. Because I don't have Twitter, or Instagram, or know how to floss, or know what the whip and nay-nay are. But I do know that this might be a point where you realize that you go down a road for a specific reason. And considering where this place is at, I feel it a sense of moral obligation to teach them their constitutional rights, rights that can't be taken away by a tyrannical government that would say, we hold power over you. Oh no, I will make sure that every single one of them knows they are in their own keeping, and these are rights that cannot be taken away. But more than that, I want them to know that if we're going to build a better world, they have to be part of it. And I can't tell them what the right answer is. I can only act as a guide on the road. Because if I pretend to have objective truth, they might look at me and scoff, saying, oh, you're just like every other adult I've met. I know nothing, and they must tell me, fill my brain of banked information. Well, you know what? I'd rather teach them to critically think so that they can question everything. Thank you.
Brett. I'm just going to, thank you. I'm going to read the next 5 readers because one of them, somebody has left and there's a couple of changes. So, the next person to read is our mini feature, Tommy Avicola Mecca. Give him a round as he comes up. Come on with the rounds out there. Let's have some applause. Thank you. And then we have Ed My Q, Rob our mini, Hal coming back, Dee Allen, John Toller. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I don't know if that person hasn't said their name to me yet. And then Adriana Gary, who is new, Aviana, who's new, Garrett, who is not new, Eddie, and then Shem, who will close us out. That's the Battle of
I'm
Brooklyn.
not the mini feature. Rob is.
Oh, Rob is the mini. Okay, sorry about that. Tommy, and then Rob the mini feature, then Hal, Margaret Mead, and Boss Tweed. Sorry.
He laughed about what he described as an orchestra of children's voices, screaming, crying, begging for their parents. Border Guard mocked the children, ripped from their mothers and fathers and put in cages and detention centers. Were his own children safely tucked in their warm beds, read stories before they closed their eyes, their heads on their pillows? They won't have nightmares. The children in the cages will never again sleep without nightmares. Will never stop hearing the laughter. Never forget the unwelcome they received in a country they were told would be a safe haven from the violence they escaped. Do they know that the last refuge of the scoundrel who gave the order to separate them from their families was a Bible passage once used to defend slavery? Do they know that some have blamed their parents for bringing them here? That others have said they were simply following the law, just doing their jobs, doing their jobs. A nation that can justify taking children from their parents, a baby from his mother's breast, and putting them in cages has no compass at all. Its conscience has been discarded, its humanity dismissed as an inconvenience. It's a country that deserves nothing but contempt for the rest of its sorry existence, as long as its citizens allow these things to be done in their name. In 1972, back in Philadelphia, my hometown, I was part of a group that organized the first gay pride march in that city. And
You're here.
now, these many years later, I am looking at something that I can't quite feel good about. The corporate sponsorships and the cops marching in the parade and lots of other things just leave me very uneasy. And this then is my piece about all that. My pride is defiant and raw. It's not polite. It isn't marketable. It won't show up in the Dow Jones averages. It's not running for office or joining the police force, the military, the church. It won't cooperate with the FBI, CIA, or Homeland Security. It isn't a ribbon, a rainbow flag, a t-shirt, or a hashtag. It isn't trending or being tweeted. It's not a Russian bot or a meme. It's not going shopping or something I ordered online. It doesn't stay in an Airbnb or call a Lyft. It doesn't have a buffed body, a designer wardrobe, or a supply of party drugs. It's not looking for a queer eye for the straight guy or a modern family. It's not a neoliberal or a libertarian. It doesn't think that changing laws or electing politicians is enough. It doesn't ever let me forget all the murdered gay men and trans women of color, or the years that this nation stood by and let my friends die. It knows that none of us are ever safe, no matter where we live. My pride is an indictment of a system that didn't just label me a faggot. It tried to beat me into believing that everything I knew and felt was wrong. A system that preferred I do its dirty work, but when I refused to submit to its electroshock torture or slash my own wrists, my pride rose, a large winged gold phoenix that will never be for sale.
I'm here to go, Mecca. Thank you. The Honorable Ed Mike will be taking the microphone now. Give him a round as he comes up here. We got Rob, our mini feature, Al coming back, Ian Allen, John, Adriana, Gary, Garrett, Shem, Eddie, Robinson Crusoe, Aloysius Valpassel, von Hohenheim. Thank you.
That's a memorial poem. There are several copies in case anybody wants it. I'd like to announce, for those who don't know, that Nancy Keene died last week. She was a major figure in the literary life of San Francisco, particularly down in the Outer Mission.
The 3300 Club.
The 3300 Club, Keene's 3300.
Yeah.
She used to say it was open to commies and dot commies and everybody in between. And she was one of the 8 Mifflin sisters I have met. There was another who died young. But one of her sisters is a poet who lives in Petaluma and started the Petaluma Poetry Walk. And that sister is known as Jerry Giorno. But Nancy ran her bar, and one Monday a month, usually, sometimes there were special events, a bunch of us would get there and read a poem. Anyway, she died. Richard and I went to the memorial event on Monday, and there's a little booklet here in case anybody wants to come and look at it. And so I'll read a few poems for Nancy. May not have her name in it, but some of them do. This one's called From the Back of the Turtle. To be young and not know what's coming, exceeding our reaches, not our overreaching. Memory is often a documentation with some parts highlighted to such an extent that much rests and fades away to the back of the turtle, who holds up the universe and each of our worlds. This one is dedicated to Nancy, who is dear to me, friend, poet, humanitarian, and may angels lift her to her rest. Here is a poem for Nancy. Is a kind of poem that she would just love because it's got some invective in it. DC's a bad town now. DC's a bad town now. Thugs in the public trough in that tainted administration, and the gang in Congress now being called Rethuglicans, with the Q-tip VP and the cover-up Kellys, the rotten Ryans and the banana Republican-like generals squatting over the government agencies and departments they have been shat out for to dismember. Plus their bad buddies who work for them, also tainted, really tainted, and for life. It is time to get rid of the slime. Sure, we've heard about swamps there, even when Lincoln was president. And remember that his son died from infections in those Potomac areas, but it wasn't the same kind of slime all the time. It is a bad time now. It is a bad town now. District of Columbia is a bad town now, and all of them are painted now with their greedy feeders, so criminally and morally twisted swine, cannibalizing the finest of America.
Oh.
Thank you, Nancy.
That was by her or for her?
That was for her. Okay. She wrote a better poem than that when she was annoyed, and would be a little more angry sometimes, and very funny. Now here's one I've written before for these, my friends. It's called The Great Final Music. that words dream motion, makes life glorious, puts raw silk to silence, gives music tongue, reveals in all the rainbow colors how nature comes listening to seed bursting, to the prairie garnet and the desert chimney peridot leaving the wind behind. Actions matter, thoughts matter, and all flow into a great final music. Nancy Keene, 1936 to 2018. God bless the woman.
Thank you, Ed. On my cue.
You can keep that in there.
And now we have Rob, our mini feature. Come on up here, Rob. And after that, we got Hal, Lee Allen, and John, Adriana, Gary, Garrett, Shem, and Eddie, or Eddie and Shem, depending on how things actually turn out. And the bifurcation kid actually is said he'd be here, but he never pays attention to me anyway.
I have spent the past few months immersing myself in the San Francisco open mic scene as a storyteller, musician, essayist, and poet. It's a strange and wonderful world. It's art free of the corruptions of commerce, and at its best fosters a spirit of community that is jarringly absent from most professional art. Applause and love rain down, even and sometimes especially on failure. Open mics are also a reminder that those who succeed in the arts are often not superior to those who don't, just luckier or more willing to compromise. At almost any open mic, there is usually one act that is as good as anything professional, and in big cities, sometimes several. Showing appreciation can be tricky, though. Talking with the performer that same night can lead to obligatory praise. I try to save my compliments for the following week. Any praise someone remembers to say a week later, I know comes from a more sincere place. Yet, receiving immediate open mic affirmation can be such a gift. For the insecure, a single encouraging word can be everything. I would hazard to guess that few speakers feel no stage fright, and some are no doubt almost overwhelmed. And for the first time in my life, I can relate. As an actor, I was able to perform in front of thousands with nary a hint of insecurity, and do one-person shows with nary a trace of fright. But at open mics, the combination of my emotional walls being so decimated and the nakedness of performing your own words has given me genuine stage fright. Apparently I cover it, but it's not easy. And truly, my mild depression and PTSD push my brain into thinking that I am talentless and people loathe me, even when there's ample evidence to the contrary. And I'm also vaguely uncomfortable with any flattery or attention, because I want my performances to be about the words, not me. It might also surprise some to know that I feel competitive. There's a part of me that considers any night a failure if I'm not clearly the most brilliant act. Perverse self-absorption, yes. And bear in mind that I have spent my adulthood pursuing spiritual humility and succeeding. Really, I mean, for years, shifting attention away from myself. Yet the ego glorification that plagues our culture is so pervasive, and the insecurity that this society pounds into our heads is just hellaciously powerful. The notion that we are forever writing the story of our life, always measuring ourselves against everyone else. In a predatory world, I can't keep those demons entirely at bay. Even monastery inmates probably fall short. I can meditate on one foot way longer than you slackers. It's also funny to realize how many spoken word artists are kind of awful at delivering their own words. The truth is that some poetry is better read than heard. Plus, a lot of poets can be monotone or too rapid, which can lead to audiences showing intent faces, but actually not following a damn thing. The funniest example of this was when a poet, in the middle of 8 short pieces, started reciting one that he had already done. And the crowd had no idea. So, yes, I too can be guilty of nodding my head and snapping my fingers while not really knowing what the speaker was talking about. There are performers who do their bit and then skedaddle. But I do my best to support all the other performers anytime I ask them to listen to me. It's not always a sacrifice, although there is a level, slightly misanthropic, artistically unimpressed, hyper-aware of my own mortality, sex-starved, on which I am bored by just about anything and anyone. The social aspect can be nice, though. Right now, these folk are pretty much the only family I have. Wednesday night, Sacred Grounds, the oldest poetry open mic in the city. Poetry is probably the least of my talents, at least when measured against its most elaborate intricacies. What the fuck is a cinquain? I've looked it up, and every time I look it up, I forget it again. My poetry can be searing and naked, or just funny and entertaining, which makes it relatable to non-poets. But poetry snobs might justifiably poo-poo me. I sometimes wonder why I attend poetry-only events at all. But there is something beautiful and pure about poets. They are generally more open than other artists. And Sacred Grounds has the greatest family feeling of any open mic I know. So I shall finish this, my first mini feature, with a brand new poem. This is called Sinner Frankie. Is it raining hard in Frisco? Only freedom's air can get me right. I'm a post-industrial peon raised by TV and fast food and intimacy fright. Think I'll hop me a freight train, 'cause I'm feeling so blue. Maybe, just maybe, somebody left my heart in San Francisco too. Somebody tell me, where can this Fillmore Street be found? Are peace and free love really dead? There's got to be some around. Are we all just dreaming androids? Maud's dead, but that Harold might be cool. I don't want my body invaded or snatched. Mrs. Robinson, I'm adrift in the pool, searching for a tribe or a flower child. A healer, a howler, a hugger, a booker. Isn't this where Captain Kirk went before he became T.J. Hooker? Did the Alcatraz Birdman tell his little friends to go fuck up Tippi Hedren? Look, above the Golden Gate. 007, dick swinging with Chris Walken. And there's Saget and the Olsen twins having a menage a trois. Chekhov needs nuclear vessels. I think they're in Alameda. Will California girls, women, find me a priceless prize? No man-eaters, please, though I do like what's between Sharon Stone's thighs. I'm sorry, Amy. I don't believe in luck, and this world offers damn few joys. But listen, I hear Eyes of the World being played by Jerry and the boys. Is the summer of love now a wasted winter of ill will? Not if I take off my clothes and play my ukulele on Hippie Hill.
Thank you, Rob. I'm Minnie. time. All right, this brings us to the return of Dr. Howell, who was the original the keynote. And he comes back, as all keynotes do, to do something of his choice as he sees fit, etc., and so forth.
The Death of a Toad by Richard Wilbur. A toad the power mower caught, chewed and clipped of a leg, with a hobbling hop has got to the garden verge and sanctuaried him under the cineraria leaves, in the shade of the ashen, heart-shaped leaves, and a dim, a low, and a final glade. The rare original heart's blood goes, spends on the earthen hide, flows in the folds and wizenings of the banked and staring eyes. He lies as still as if he would return to stone, and soundlessly attending, dies toward some deep monotone, toward misted and ebullient seas and cooling shores, toward lost amphibious emperies. Day dwindles, drowning, and at last is gone in the wide and staring eyes, which still appear to watch across the castrate lawn, the haggard daylight steer.
Wow. D. Allen, come on up. I haven't seen him in a while, so give D. Allen a round as he comes up. We got John and Adriana, Gary, Merritt, Shannon, Eddie. We have to give John the treatment when he comes up here.
All right, 2 poems tonight. 2 new ones.
All right.
The first one is called Liquid Fire Legacy. Despair taps on a red man's shoulder, leading him to temptation outside the res. His lone pilgrimage ends walking into a store, finding and reaching out for the almighty Great Spirit, labeled Hurricane Malt Liquor, weight 25 ounces, tall boy, aluminum body. Temptation fills refrigerator shelves under alternate names. Colt 45, Old English 800, King Cobra. Cash and carry, all part of his solemn ritual. Slam the cash down on the countertop, carry the can back to a private misery. His lips, teeth, tongue, and throat will taste. Mind will soon forget that rich, foamy, wet, amber temptation. Cold brew, replace yesteryear's liquid fire in a bottle. A Hollywood stereotype is born with each swig from a can. Don't need the army no more when this slowly severs the sacred hoop more than imagined. Legacy of intoxication, stretching back to when the first pale-faced newcomers laid eyes on their first band of natives, offering them in exchange their strange bottled gifts for fresh-skinned furs, whiskey from the English, brandy from the French.
Yeah.
That new poem was called Liquid Fire Legacy, and the last one is an original piece by me, written in the style of one of Sacred Grounds Cafe's own regulars at this Wednesday night open mic. He happens to be one of the most prolific, energetic, and most entertaining of performance poets in the Bay Area that I know. And his work helped to inspire this last one I'm about to read for y'all. This is a new one called Finally. Finally, a memorial exists for crimes USA remained silent about for over a century. And all that silence, folks, is deafening. among all those Confederate Civil War statues standing throughout Alabama. Finally, a museum is open to Usan citizens in denial and usually shopping. Built at the scene of one of the biggest crime where a slave warehouse once stood. What was home to countless blacks born into captivity, degradation, and endless back-breaking work picking cotton for old massa is now a place where its legacy's murderous results are all on display. Finally, this empire's victims of genocide at the hands of cruel, grinning, racist Southern whites, the true faces of evil, during slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights, and mass incarceration are now commemorated at the new museum. Take a tour through courtyards populated with statues of Africans in iron collars and chains. Walk through hallways filled with black and white photos of families torn asunder by night-riding lynch mobs. Steel man-sized pillars attached to poles on the ceiling, engraved with the names of 4,000 people murdered for their dark skin, if nothing else. Many more left unknown. Continue walking into a room of shelves holding jars of dirt from 800 deep South counties where lynch law was the dominant law. Nooses, torches, shotguns enforced the great white will. Keep them in their place. Finally, something right was done. Here in USA, the EJI took the initiative none dared. They brought into being a museum focused on a never-ending Holocaust, long progressing side by side with the one that massacred Native people. White robes, Klan violence, black robes, Christian terror, and judicial force brought forth the struggle shown on the museum's photographic walls. Surviving the struggle to exist under hate is the same for black and red. Finally, the dead can watch the living, descendants of their tormentors and killers, atone for old sins by visiting the new memorial, by witnessing and facing the horrors inflicted on people their ancestors called inferior. Then the healing can begin, so our present can reconcile with the brutal past, finally. That last poem was called Finally, written in the style of Sacred Ground's own regular, Richard Sanderell, the Cursive Writer.
Cursive Writer. Thank you. Give him another round. All right. So we have someone who signed in, John Taller or Taller, I don't know. I guess the person. Okay, then we will pass beyond that. And as you well know, because we've done this a couple times this evening, when we have a new person, we go through all sorts of verbal terpsichorean celebrations to honor their coming to the mic. So I would like to have us give a very warm welcome to Adriana, our newest new person, as she comes up here. Come on, let's hear it! Come on! Woo! Yeah, just to get yourself organized there, and I'll get you focused in. Can you move the mic stand just about towards that way a little bit? I could, yeah, that way I can center on you.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's good.
Alright, so this is my second time ever doing open mic, so bear with me.
Wow! Don't be shy.
Not.
Okay.
Alright, I got two this one. Attitude towards myself so shitty, a disease to be me, gross, a pity. Need sleep for about a lifetime, but there's no time. Pause. A bad case of the aftermath from a seductive equation, force-feeding the spirit until it grows obese in a loathsome batter. So appealing to excite and bring pleasure, but the toxin scatters. Pause. No linear thought process clogged in the ears, I'm not listening. There's nothing for me to hear. I used to be good. Is that who you're missing? Come visit me in the rusty shed, trap you in my horse, nail your fingers to the wall, make you drink what you bled, your eyes thrown open, come get in the dead. This one's called Young Now. News covering utter amounts of blues, young people dying in streets with happy-colored shoes. Let this be a mirror of how hard it is to be a youthful person in this time, in this age, in this hour. They've seen it all, what more can I bring? They've heard it all, I'm sure not to even be seen. They found that one a long time ago, but surely I'm not that person whom you cling to their pole. Who am I to be but a walker with no car in the streets? Let me put forth what it is you dismiss to see, what a life you House members assume to lead.
Thank you, Adriana. And now, since your hands are warmed up, in a similar vein, we have another person who is making their debut appearance here tonight. Gary Decker, is that right? Yes. Give Gary a round. Come on, ladies. This is so weak out there. This is Gary Decker, ladies and gentlemen. Did I say that right? I got it right? Because I can make mistakes pretty easily.
This isn't my first time in front of a mic, but I count the police lineups.
Yeah, it depends if they ask
The ABCBDs of THC by Gary D. That's me. B-52's cherry bomb strain. Big bang, big bomb on my brain. Double cheese, Death Star, smoke dream queen. If it was 1980, I'd think it was a dream. Fire, OG, Forest Dream, Frisco Duck. You can still buy an 8 for 25 bucks. Hash bomb, hash plant, even hash berry. I'm gonna buy as much as they let me carry. Jack Flash, Jack the Ripper, Jack Hurrar. Bring your torch, smoke some wax at the local dab bar. Las Vegas, Sour Bubba, Laughing Buddha. For breakfast, I eat French toast with cannabis butter. Polar Express, Purple Kush, Polar Dream Review. Purple cheese, purple cream might be for you. Raspberry Cough, Robocop, Rolex, OG Kush. Rosetta Stone, Romulan Power. I smoked some for a week in 1 hour. Tangerine Tie Stick, Tangerine Candy, the snow, the church, the doctor, leave you feeling dandy. All letters haven't been represented. That's because they haven't yet been invented. Indica can make you tired. Smoke sativa may get wired. There's a third strain called Ruderalis. I hear that if you smoke it, you don't need Cialis. My favorite strain is Blue Cookies. Don't post this on Facebook, please. Thank you.
We're down to our final three. We have Garrett Murphy, then Eddie, then Shem, our clincher, closer, super duper bulldozer, as I've said many times before, more than I can care to mention. Thank you so very much. Garrett Murphy is coming up now. When he makes his appearance, please give him a nice round of applause. One of the best poets we've seen in as many minutes as I can possibly remember. Wait a minute, I should say something. There you go. Nice.
Three travesties and then many. From the whole of Africa, they were snatched by raiders, random without regard to region or clan or family, shipped away far from connections to home or to culture, to be split further and further from legitimate names. Today, most names are the same as those of the captors, and connections are to this day irrevocably lost through years of splitting and mixings and mix-ups. They had to make an all-new culture like a jigsaw puzzle with at least half of the pieces lost, stolen, or destroyed. In many ways, for oppressors, theirs are the ultimate result. Already on the land was another cultural group, who nonetheless was also believed illegitimate. They were ravished and savaged and wiped out by invaders, and as if that was not more than enough, their families were also deliberately torn asunder, carted off to good Christian white families to learn the real culture in place of their own. Wiping out the connections through intermingle or starvation took an act of Congress to put a stop to that, though the damage will and has lasted much longer. Now the notoriously mentally truant delinquents, known as Little Jeffrey Sessions and Little Johnny Kelly, dare to deliberately pull migrant children from their parents under the usual tactic of a tough deterrent. T-Rex tactic or tyrant decree are the more apt monikers for that diabolical plot. The goal is, of course, a reprise of the usual chaotic desire of making America lily white. The adage, what does not kill you makes you stronger, conveniently neglects to add the postscript and ages you, which of course is another desire of the would-be enforcers, namely the figurative and literal elimination of culture. The sinking tower of rhymes with Crisco. Like present-day imitators of Yodo the Turtle, the city parents and developers did at this time, all they really had to do was to simply build a new transit center. But of course, who do we think we are? Anyone can build a simple transit center, but we're SNF, the city that really knows how. There's nothing going higher than we will build us a transit center capped by a building that'll really help to build us up to the stars. So they build up and build up and build up some more, and behold, that tower was built, a marvel of the ages. But what's that odd sound, that sinking sound, not quite the burping sound of a Mac, but equally ominous? A gas roars out, and it's plainly clear that that tower has begun to sink like poor Alice into the earth. Those developers might have dared to rise to the stars, but it appears they may really sink to the fallen stars. They really should have known than to build up on sand, something up to go through hourglasses, sole source of hubris of city leaders and builders. But you can never keep a big ego down for long. Hey, look on the bright side. At least we've done Italy a few better. They just have a leaning tower of Pisa, but we have, ladies and gentlemen, the sinking tower of, well, you know. Kanye not. Kanye not. Take a walk, a shower, a nap, or just a hike. Only one steeped and stranded with a chump in Stockholm would call his ancestors' ordeals a choice of their will.
Yeah. All right, Eddie, and then our closing chef. Eddie around us, he comes up. He hasn't been here in a long month of Sundays, as we like to say in the old days. A month of Tuesdays, because I'm trying to hurry it with a month of Sundays. I'll have to, can you, yeah, thank you. Just lower the thing for him. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. He will as well.
Oh, yeah, you gotta lower it a lot.
All right. There we go. And you zoom in. There we go.
Hello, I'm Eddie. I haven't been here in a while. I've been in a hospital during the H.D. Fair. I missed it, and I had to go back to the hospital. Father's Day, I was in the hospital also. But anyway, I haven't been up also for a while because somebody stole my paintings up here, and they were supposed to help me. They know who they are. But anyway, my first poem I'm going to read is I Died for a Cigarette. I tried to stop smoking, but it seems I can't quit. Because each time I tried, I had a nicotine fit. I felt kind of funny. In fact, I went nuts. I was digging in ashtrays for some cigarette butts. I remember the times that I stood up till 4. I was gathering all my change for the Arabic store. Now I lay here with cancer, with the guilt and regret that I ever let up that one first cigarette. One led to another, and soon it was packed, and I smoked like a train with my lungs on the tracks. I never would listen to the Surgeon General's warnings, and I would light up another as I'd awaken each morning. I tried to stop smoking, but I couldn't stop the crave, and I died for a cigarette. Should be written on my grave. One led to another, and now my lungs are all black. And someday you may see what I mean. When you died for a smoke, you see there's no joke, just your lungs on an X-ray machine. I tried to stop smoking, but I just couldn't quit, and I gave up my life to my nicotine fit. So if my money is funny, and my credit still talks, please bury my ashes in a cigarette box. Okay, this one is, I wrote about this girl I was with and everything, and she had a rare blood disease, and she was in the hospital, and she wasn't gonna make it. And I wrote her this poem, and it stayed above her the whole time, and brought a little joy to her. This is called Dreams of You. If I could have 1,000 dreams and just one would come true, I will concentrate on one the most, the dream I have of you. I guess it's just my frame of mind, but the picture seems so clear. I feel a loss of self-control whenever you are near. I feel the chill that lovers feel when Cupid pulls his bow, and I know the pain one can't explain, to be the only one to know. If I could have 1,000 dreams and just one would come true, I would hold it down with all my might, the dream I have of you. If you could have 1,000 dreams and I was part of one, that single dream would surely mean much more than to have none.
Really short though. Really short.
I'm done for now. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Eddie. Give him a nice round. He has a junior and some.
I got 1 minute. I'd like to show everybody this picture. This is my artwork. These little ladies here, you might recognize some of them.
Yeah.
There's, Trump, Putin, and some young fool. Okay, thank you.
All right, and now our closer. Oh, there we go. There we go. Shem will close us out. Let's let him get out of there, and then we'll take care of it. And then we'll take care of these marvelous, wonderful prizes designed with your mind in mind, as I like to say. Give him a round, please. He's coming up here.
Okay, I read this here before once, but it's changed a little bit, so here it goes. It's called Rubber Bands and Safety Pins Used to Be More Free. Soles of my shoes keep coming unglued. Don't glue them like they used to. Maybe I should try Gorilla Glue or Rubber Cement or Crazy Glue or Shoe Glue or Super Glue or something. I like the glue names. Gonna need a lot of rubber bands to hold it all together when the glue's drying. The fat purple and blue ones that come on the broccolis maybe. If the glues don't work, I could maybe just put more rubber bands on my shoes when they wear out. The rubber bands, I mean, if I just buy more shoes, what's the point? Yeah, free fat purple and blue and sometimes green rubber bands. Just have to buy a whole bunch of broccolis. Gonna need a lot of rubber bands. Good excuse to eat more broccoli. You can get broccoli all year round. Don't know exactly why. Should have some kind of a season. These supermarkets with their worldwide airplane deliveries and transoceanic container ships with refrigerator containers. Man, merchant marine's got to be a good job. Wouldn't want to work on an airplane though. Get claustrophobic. Got me all disconnected from the seasons, the supermarkets, and the transcontinental food deliveries in case I lost you. And the supermarkets are open all night on every aisle. Got to stay away from the center aisles. Shop around the edges of the supermarkets. That's where the real food is. Center aisle's got too much packaging, no rubber bands, bunch of junk made out of subsidized corn syrup and fast-active dry yeast. What the hell is fast-active dry yeast anyway, and where'd it come from? And now they got the quick-rise yeast, even faster. Why is everybody in such a goddamn hurry with the bread baking? Yeah, them 24-hour supermarket fluorescent lights can't even tell if it's day or night sometimes. Oh, and asparaguses, when they're in season. How come asparaguses got a season and the broccolis don't? Maybe I'll start getting all my friends and family and neighbors to eat more veggies with big fat rubber bands, because all the walking around I do on these cement sidewalks and concrete streets wears them out quick. Gonna need a lot of rubber bands. Can't buy too much at the farmer's market. They don't hardly use rubber bands. Speaking of rubber bands, used to be you could find safety pins all over the place too. Seems like these days the piles of free safety pins just up and disappeared. Thing of the past. Used to be I could peg my jeans with free safety pins. Had so many, kept them in a coconut shell I had my mom cut for me when I was about 7. Now I gotta buy them pre-pegged. The jeans, not the safety pins. Who ever heard of pre-pegged safety pins? Jeans manufacturers probably bought out all the free safety pin people, make us buy more pre-pegged jeans. Yeah, maybe it was the jeans manufacturers who took away all the safety pins so we'd stop pegging our own and buy theirs. I don't know. Still got earwax though. Comes out of my own ears. Can't put a price on that, can they? Wouldn't put it past them though.
Jim, thank you. All right, we're at the ultimate phase. When you signed in, you put your name next to a number. You notice these fancy cards with numbers on them, which I have been shuffling, and I'm having this person here cut them really once, and then I'll call the cards and pick someone who will take